Hey, I'm great. Thanks a lot, Roderick. It's great to be here for Winterfest on this Iron Dog weekend. And today's theme, as you mentioned, is Corruption Busters, Finding the Real Reformers. Coming up in our first hour, we'll hear from 3 citizen watchdogs. The second hour will feature Crony Capitalism 101 from 2 preeminent researchers on that subject, Peter Schweitzer and Luigi Zingales. And our third hour will focus on sudden and relentless reform as 2 elected officials, including the Lieutenant Governor of Wisconsin, Rebecca Clayfish, join us. So we hope everyone enjoys the program today, and we have a surprise for you coming along that you won't want to miss. But first, to get a sneak preview of grassroots action this election year, we kick off the fest with Thomas Schmitz, Chairman of American Grizzlies United and the California State Coordinator for Organize for Palin. He joins us from Hollywood, California, just up the hill from the Kodak Theater where they're hosting the Oscars tomorrow night. Welcome, Thomas.
Hi, Nicole. I'm happy to be here.
Great to have you. Well, Thomas, many of us know you. You are a brave conservative rebel in the heart of liberal Hollywood. What's that like?
Well, there's something in the air right now. I can smell common sense corruption busting all around me. There's this emerging movement that's beginning to influence the local narrative here in Hollywood and the local grassroots activism. And we had a huge success earlier this month. A coalition of grassroots activists came together, set aside the wedge issues, and focused on rooting out crony capitalism and corruption. The crony capitalists had this scam going called the CRA, the California Redevelopment Agencies. It was straight up money laundering, and everyone who was paying attention knew it. The mother of all monuments to Los Angeles crony capitalism is the Hollywood Highland Complex, which houses the Kodak Theater right here in Hollywood, where many people will be watching the Academy Awards tomorrow night. Let me tell you a little something about that. This taxpayer-funded CRA project was built for $625 million taxpayer dollars. And soon after that, it was sold for $201 million to one of Los Angeles City Councilman and probable mayoral candidate, Gil Garcetti's best buds, the CMI group. The CIM group. That's a 32% discount off the construction cost. But the corruption didn't stop there. The next mayoral candidate, Gil Garcetti, and the other council members, they gave the CIM group an extra $30 million in taxpayer dollars to rehab the Kodak Theater. That means this one project was a loss of $454 million. That's close to a $500 million loss. And how many of those incremental property taxes does CIM group pay into the general fund? None. I mean, this is not the capitalism of free men and free markets, of risk, sacrifice, reward, hard work for a job well done. No, this is capitalism of connections, handouts, and peddling these corporate welfare. This is crony capitalism that destroyed Europe's economies. Just, look to Europe and see what's coming. But I am honored and proud to say that the scam is now dead. The CRAs are dead because a coalition of grassroots activists put wedge issues aside, came together, rose up, and said, hell no. It has been signed by the governor and by the California Supreme Court. They're dead, and nonsense like happened at the Kodak Theater, it's not going to happen here anymore.
That is awesome. So you're saying that a coalition of Democrats, Republicans, Independents worked on this? Everyone.
Corruption
year, right?
is across the board. It's an American issue. It's not partisan at all.
Yeah. Well, Thomas, you are such a fighter. We want to introduce people to what you're doing with American Grizzlies United. Now, all of us are familiar with Organize for Palin, which you've been heavily involved with, but can you tell us what's the difference between American Grizzlies United and O4P?
Of course. American Grizzlies United, it's a grassroots organization dedicated to organizing, educating, and training volunteers for American political elections. In 2010, American Grizzlies United introduced 2 projects: Organize for Palin, O4P, and Students for Palin, S4P. The original goal of the O4P project was to help put Sarah Palin's endorsed candidates in office. And so what O4P does is supports candidates that are endorsed by Governor Sarah Palin and AGU, American Grizzlies United, we work to support local candidates that are endorsed by you, the people, good candidates, just from every level of government. We're talking down-ticket, local upstart candidates, oftentimes Tea Party candidates that kind of get snubbed by the machine. We don't endorse candidates, but what we do is we spotlight candidates, and we focus our efforts on providing volunteers and the general public with information, ideas, guidance, so they can choose which candidates to give their support to. Then after the 2010 midterm elections, the O4P volunteers volunteered our nationwide network to help with the promotion of the undefeated. And by using personal connections, technology, and the telephone, the O4P volunteers worked tirelessly to help fill strategically selected theaters on opening weekend, and on a per-screen basis, the citizen activism helped the undefeated help hold its own against Harry Potter, the Transformers, and Winnie the Pooh. That was done with almost no money. Even the LA Times was so impressed that that no marketing money was used. They said this will be a new model that will benefit the entire entertainment industry. And so that's what we're doing here is we're using our volunteers. Again, O4P helps candidates that are endorsed by Sarah Palin, and AGU, American Grizzlies United, helps local candidates that are endorsed by you, the people, good candidates from every level of government.
Right. So how can people get involved with AGU and find you on the web?
There's several ways. You can go to our website, AmericanGrizzlies.com, or you can just text Palin to 90210. That's Palin to 90210, and AmericanGrizzlies.com on the web. And you can follow us on Twitter, AGU Grizzlies, and that's how you find us. And you register, and then you get contacted by us and a state coordinator in your state, and we'll put you to work.
Well, I know that Palin supporters had a big role in the 2010 midterm elections, helping to elect a lot of conservatives to office. I mean, we took over governorships and state legislatures, and I know that will be the goal again this year, to really transform this country or reform it and restore it, actually. And I know that the goal is to help retake the Senate. And I've been hearing somewhat. I know you guys have something you're calling the Grizzly Doctrine, a crib sheet, and the AGU Citizen Activism Guide. Can you briefly tell us about that? We've got about two or three more minutes here.
Sure. I'll talk fast, so listen slow. One of our resources is the Grizzly Doctrine, a crib sheet, and you can find that on our website under resources. It's a manuscript. It provides a framework for discussion about honest, ethical policies that all Americans should expect from our leaders. It doesn't just cover issues. It also helps educate ordinary citizen volunteers on the best ways to approach potential voters to discuss these candidates and their positions. Another one of our resources, it's called the Citizen Activism Guide. It showcases volunteerism, vetting, and organizing your precincts. We really believe very strongly that there's only one way to put America back on the right track, and that is through an engaged citizenry. An engaged citizenry is key to effectively governing and passing the agenda of sudden and relentless reform that we so need right now. And it's through an engaged citizenry that AGU believes that we have this unique opportunity to build a better future for all Americans.
And what if you're a candidate and a candidate wants to get in touch with AGU to, connect with the grassroots volunteers?
You can email me, Thomas at AmericanGrizzlies.com. You can tweet us, AGU Grizzlies on Twitter, and we'll go from there. And we've got a lot of candidates right now on our website under projects. You just drop down the menu, and it says 2012 primary candidates. And we've got a list right there of candidates that we're showcasing and encouraging people to vet them and to give them a hand if you feel compelled to help that candidate, and to use our Citizen Activism Guide that showcases volunteerism, vetting, and organizing in your precinct. Use that guide to vet these candidates, and you make the decision. Do you want to help that candidate? And we've got the links to their campaign sites right there, and to their Facebook page, and to their Twitter page, and then you can help them. So we did in the 2010 election cycle with a 67% success rate.
That is awesome. Well, you're such a great spokesperson, Thomas, and leader in this movement, and we so appreciate your work. Thomas Schmitz of American Grizzlies United. Everyone check out AmericanGrizzlies.com website. We'll be hearing more from AGU in future Grizzly Fests because boots on the ground is vital to our efforts to reform America. Thanks, Thomas.
Our work continues.
Yes. Well, as we know, Governor Payton blew the whistle on corruption as chair of the Alaska Oil and Gas Commission. Our next guest, Sarah Nuckles, exposed a $340 million vote-buying scam at the South Carolina Department of Transportation, where she serves as a commissioner. This did not make her any friends with the establishment. One of the Republicans Nuckles exposed tried to get her fired from the Transportation Commission. Nuckles owns a business and has a background in budgeting and auditing both in the private and public sectors. I caught up with her earlier this week. Welcome, Sarah. So glad you could join us on Grizzly Fest.
Hello, Nicole. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate what you're doing, and I couldn't help but think about another Iron Lady of the past when we talked about Miss Palin and others, and I'm a great admirer of Margaret Thatcher, who I think faced many of the same kinds of difficulties in trying to reform government and making it more efficient years ago. And I can't help but make that comparison.
We have to honor our Mama Grizzly across the pond, don't we?
Yes,
well,
ma'am.
You know, it sounds like you're not making friends with the good old boys in the Transportation Department.
Well, no, not at all, because anytime you have a closed system there, and this is true really probably of most DOTs across the nation, and I'm not trying to say anything that's not known. It's controlled by, for instance, there are 7 of us as commissioners, but we are appointed by legislators, and you've got a few people, you've got 7 people who are having their buttons, pushed to vote on hundreds of millions of dollars that the public is not even aware. They don't know how the decisions are made. They don't know how road and bridge money is allocated. But it gives, when you think about it, it gives elected officials cover, because you've got 7, commissioners sitting out there, and every state has a different form, but and so I think sometimes that is one way for powerful political interests and crony capitalism, as you've referred to it, to operate behind the scenes. You never see this in the media. It is very complex. People, like government is, heavy regulatory, bureaucratic, layer upon layer, and they don't have any idea what's happening. All they know, the end result is frustration at increased debt, increased expansion of government. As far as infrastructure, a declining infrastructure, that's not being cared for, and they don't know why.
Well, you've served on the commission now for 4 years. So could you talked about it a little bit, but could you explain just what your job is to do, and so that we understand that? And then after you vote on highway projects, then are they voted on by the state legislature?
No, and that's why I say there is a lot of power concentrated in the hands of a few commissioners. If you have 7 commissioners voting on, in our case, in our state, which is really rather a small state, $1.1 billion a year in state and federal tax money. You could take, other states, it's even far more than that, but you've got a few people voting on hundreds of millions of dollars. Our commission here is kind of like, if you want to compare it, you could say maybe it's a board of directors. And then we have a Secretary of Transportation who would be like a CEO. The difference is that our board of directors, meaning myself and the other 6 commissioners, are appointed by the legislature, whereas the secretary, CEO person, is appointed by the governor. And so that is supposed to sort of emulate the check and balance structure that we have in our government, legislative, executive, judicial branch.
Right. So you're in charge of really dispersing federal highway dollars and directing where this money goes.
Well, when I say direct, the CEO, as you would expect, is responsible, of course, for day-to-day operations. So our commission sets policy, and we vote on all of these things, but truly believe that the commission has an influence on staff and the way projects, they're not supposed to, but they do. And we have a what's called a ranking system in our state, which I thought was great. It was set up about 5 years ago. But unfortunately, the law allowed loopholes in it that leaves the commission a whole lot of leeway. So, yes, we vote on large projects. We approve the budget, for the agency and that sort of thing. We do not hire and fire staff, and we do not hire and fire the secretary.
Well, last year, you, through a series of op-eds that you wrote, you had exposed a vote-buying scam that you found was worth about $344 million in transportation projects. You found out that the chair of your commission, Danny Isaac, was trying to buy off the commission votes with a crony bond issue and keep the whole thing hidden from the public. Can you explain what happened with that? That sounds awful.
Right. It is. The chairman of the commission is from a county in our state that wants to build an interstate to that county, to the town of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And there have been a lot of reasons. This thing has been debated for 20 years, believe it or not. There have been earmarks that have been put on this project and so on. But in that time, during that 20 years, hundreds of millions of dollars in road money has been spent on roads going to that area. And so really the issue to me when I came on the commission, when I looked at it, and I didn't have, as I say, I didn't have a dog in the hunt. I wasn't making any money off of it or anything else. I said, boy, this just doesn't make sense. It didn't look common sense to me. It didn't look like it was really needed. And so I started talking about that. Well, boy, did I ever run into a firestorm because there are huge political implications going all the way up to Congress on this. And but what it did do, my concerns created a conversation, and because I found out that this same chairman of the commission went behind the scenes, behind closed doors, I guess we can call it that, with the other commissioners, and basically said, if you give me $105 million that I want to put on my interstate project, you can pick whichever project you want in your district.
Right.
So that was the shall we say vote buying, if you want to call it that, in the infrastructure sense. And these projects that they selected were not ranked high. Only one, for around $25 million of that total. It really violated, frankly, it violated the law, because there is a law in the state of South Carolina that says elected officials may not meet behind closed doors. You have to have a public notice. You have to have the public and the media there, the whole bit. Well, they were doing this all behind the scenes.
And they didn't invite you. They didn't invite you to that
No.
closed door? That sounds illegal right there.
Yeah, I got wind of it, but I didn't participate in it. I had no idea what the numbers were. I didn't know which projects they were on. I of course assumed some of it would have to be on I-73, or they wouldn't even have been doing this. And the sad part is, prior to this, shall we call it horse trading, the commission had not been inclined to support I-73. I mean, everybody's waiting on Washington to do something. As you know, they're working on the transportation bill. And they have been for, the last 2.5 years since it expired. So all of a sudden, they popped up. We went to an out-of-town meeting, opened the meeting. The agenda was immediately amended, and here came this vote. Just bam, just like that. No public notice, no media, no nothing. Well, that was it. I had it. That kind of was the the straw that broke the camel's back. Right. And I went to the media, and I told them what happened. I went to the various 3 or 4 major newspapers in the state. Well, wow, to their credit, I mean, we slam the media a lot, but I'm going to tell you, they really grabbed the ball and ran with it on this one. The whole idea of no transparency.
What is the status of that bond issue?
Well, right now, thank goodness, because of all of the firestorm of media attention, and I have been writing, a lot of op-eds and a lot of the blogs, as you mentioned, are been carrying pieces, really just slamming the DOT. I almost cringe, It's on hold. It is on hold. But I'm under no dreams that as soon as everything quiets down and as soon as I get off the commission, which I have to by law very soon, it'll come back up.
Well, by law, you can only serve a certain number of years.
Yes,
your
ma'am.
term is almost
4 years, right. Yeah.
Oh, so you're coming to the end of your term. Well, has anyone else, you said the media has championed your cause. What are the recriminations for Danny Isaac and the others?
Not one thing was done. That's what is so upsetting. I want you to know, and I'm talking about South Carolina. I can't speak for other states, although I spent 30 years in South Florida, and we had the Sunshine Law down there.
Right.
And the Sunshine Law puts a lot of light on all activities of the government, elected officials, and so on. And I really like that. The more the better as far as I'm concerned. But in South Carolina, what I have found is that when laws are passed, they have loopholes in them. And so this is one way that elected officials, and this happens on the federal level, they can say, well, I passed this law. Isn't that great? The voters are happy. But what you don't know is you have to look at the fine print in the law, whether it's a National Health Care Act or whether it's a local law in South Carolina. Right. And that's what's, the law doesn't have enough strength in it.
Teeth. It doesn't have enough teeth in it.
Teeth. That's a good word.
Well, do you think the legislature, will anybody, take this up to open up transparency and reform?
Well, I don't know. But right now, I'll tell you what has happened that was good. The legislature, as a result of all the media and the heat, shall we say, there are a number of laws that have been proposed to reform the DOT and to make it more accountable and even to abolish the commission, which I support. I think there are other things that we can do to provide accountability by this agency, and it also gives the governor the ability to be accountable to the entire state. You're not trying to deal with 7 commissioners and you don't know who's behind them and this and that and the other. So that's happening right now as we speak. Whether that will get through the good old boy system, we will see.
Well, what can other concerned citizens do in their states?
Well, just what has been happening. I love what has happened in our nation in the last few years. Certainly, Governor Palin was a part of that, but we've seen the rise of. Hey, I like the Tea Party types. I'm all for it. I may not agree with everything, but you know what? I'm glad to see that people are paying attention. So people need to pay attention. They need to become involved. They certainly need to vote. Pay attention to some of the blogs and all of those things and ask questions, send letters, emails. We've got great communications these days.
We have power. I think what they depend on is if we, don't get involved and just figure, someone else will do it. So
I can tell you, Nicole, that people, I know this legislature here is paying attention to what's going on about the DOT. Now, how long that happens and how fruitful that will be, I don't know. But for us not to try we're abdicating our responsibility as citizens. It's our country. The government is our government.
What's next for you then after your term is up? Are you going to run for governor?
I don't know. I've been thinking about that. I am unfortunately, unless I run for a statewide office or something beyond that, my district where I live, we have a couple of good senators and legislators, so I really don't want to run against them. They've done a great job, and that would not be good I don't think that would be a smart move at this point. So I don't know yet.
Well, we will keep our eye on this issue, and we do wish you well in your future. We hope that you can continue fighting the system and really opening up the transparency. That's what we're all about. With this anti-crony capitalism that we're trying to pursue with Grizzly Fest. Thank you so much, Sarah.
You're very welcome, and I want to just say, don't, never, never, never give up, and one person can make a difference.
Very great. Sarah Nuckles is a small business owner and commissioner in the South Carolina Department of Transportation, and she's a taxpayer hero. Grizzly Fest continues at the bottom of the hour after this break, so stay tuned. Adam Andrzejewski for the Good of Illinois is coming up next. Thank you so much.